Oh, hello there. Welcome to our garden. So, Coronation Day today. Been a little while since I've uploaded anything. Went and got the lurgy. Haven't been very well. And been distracted trying to work out wiring things. So, everything in the garden, unfortunately, been a bit neglected. If you saw the last video with regards to the office update, you'll know that I took out 3 of my beds. I'll be honest, I was gutted, absolutely gutted. Tried to save the peas, it didn't work. Our next door neighbours have got quite a few guinea pigs and things like that, so we ended up giving them all of that. So it's not going to waste. As you can see from the green in the background, everything really does need to go out. My poor peppers, they're all very happy. I mean, this one is a shop bought one, if I'm honest. They're all very happy though. But they do need to go in bigger pots because they are starting to get a little bit root bound. I'm starting to see some yellowing on the leaves, so they all need to go in. My tomatoes are doing fantastic. They need to go in their bags. Summer squashes are all doing really nicely. These are ones from seed, planted, when did I plant these? 18th of February. And they are ready and raring to go now. So they've got to go in their big pots. The corn, sort of mixed on them, but they're ready to go out now, which is good. The onions, you can see from there, these desperately need to go out. These should have gone out about a month ago, but they'll still be okay. I've got to try and find areas for them to go. And the beans, oh, I just hit my head again. They're over in the back. They need to go in the ground. So the video today is going to be over 2 days, I think, because I haven't got enough time to get everything done before the rain comes. So we've got a lot of wet weather coming. We had a nasty storm yesterday, flooded our bloody kitchen again. It just keeps happening. Our garden slopes right down to the door and the drainage isn't very good. So at some point this year, I've got to try and install some sort of drainage. Not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but that's later me's problem, not today, must be. So yeah, so main things for today. I need to get the tomatoes in. Now I'm going to do them in 3 ways. 2 of them will be in the greenhouse and 1 of them will be in the garden. So the first way in the greenhouse is a grow bag. I picked up some trays a couple of years ago from B&Q. They were reduced to clear for 50p. Big old water bath trays. I can fit 2 along each side of my greenhouse, so that's where they go. The bag that I've got for the tomatoes this year, I'm going to be growing the beefsteak tomatoes in there. 3 plants in that bag. I'll show you how I do that. Another way that I'm going to do it in the greenhouse is in pots, which I apparently don't have in my greenhouse right now, so they'll be outside somewhere. But the same size pots I put the cucumbers in. So with those ones, I can put them closer together. But again, I'll be putting them in a water bath. So I'll be probably doing 4 to 5 of them. I don't know what's going on this year, but I just have so many slugs and snails in my greenhouse. Come on, off you come. Bloody thing. And now my cat's on my greenhouse roof as well. Well, he was, and then he slipped off. But yeah, so tomatoes, grow bag, pots in the greenhouse, and then pots outside. You can also put them in beds, but because I've got rid of some of my beds, I haven't got enough space. And then I'm going to be getting on with a few other bits and pieces as well, like the peppers, for example, and the beans, but they'll probably be tomorrow. So I'll bring you back in when I'm ready in a moment. I think the first thing I'm going to do is have a big old clear out of the greenhouse. All the empty pots and the failed pots, like that. Get them all into one bucket, sift through to make sure there's no seeds. Get them all into one tub. And then I think I'll start planting. Another thing I forgot to mention, the bed that I've got out there with the, not bologna beans, broad beans, the mint bed. So the mint's all back. I can't pull it out anymore because I'll start pulling up the beans. So I'm going to snip all of that as low down as I possibly can. And it's also where we planted a giant sunflower last year. And the birds may have got to the seeds. And for some reason, I thought, that'll be absolutely fine. All the seeds are gone. Don't need to worry. I've got hundreds of giant sunflowers growing in that bed as well. So I'm going to try and transplant as many of them as I can. Any that I can't get the full root network, just go in the composter. Thus, this is definitely a 2-day. And I know I said it's Coronation Day. It's the 6th of May today. Revenge of the 6th. Why is it Revenge of the 5th? I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you in a bit. So that's it, relatively cleared out now. Cucumbers go here. I do have one more plant that is not ready for transplant yet, so that's going to go in the spot just there. They're all struggling a little bit at the moment, or bar one. One in the centre here is looking really nice and healthy. I've got to straighten these poles up, and I will string them up to the bar there, and they'll climb up that no problem. Last year I had them growing from the floor onto the ceiling and then all the way across. And plant the melons over there in that slot. I'm going to be using this size tub for them because from what I've read they take a lot more water and feed, so they've got their own water bath there. Then that's my big planter, which is going to be for the beef tomatoes in here, and then this is going to be where I'm planting the Tigerellas. So King's Coronation is going to start in a minute, so I'm probably just going to do a little bit more tidying, and then I'll be back later on this afternoon to get these tomatoes in. Just thought what might be a good idea is to start this bag, because this bag's been sat here for 3 weeks. The moisture content's going to be quite low, and I want it to raise before I actually plant the tomatoes. So you can see the bag's already got marked out. You can just about see the lines. I can see them better in person. You can see there. So that's where I'm going to be planting the tomatoes. Again, these are the beef tomatoes. So all I'm going to do is open it up like so. And last but not least, you can cut the sections out. I don't find it too necessary to do that, and at least this way it actually retains some more moisture, less for it to escape. That's that done. Now underneath it's got perforations all round it, which you can't see on camera. I'm going to add a few more a bit later, but what I want right now is for this bag to swell even more than it has done. So I'm going to add a load of moisture. Sorry for the shaky camera. So just simply with the watering can, just going to add a load of fluid to it. Do it in all the holes. It's important to make sure that the compost is moist before you plant your tomatoes. You can actually shock the roots quite easily. Well, you can in my experience anyway. This one's a little bit higher raised, so I'm just going to create a little well there, a little divot, and then chuck some water in there. Now with the ones in pots it won't matter as much. These ones, that'll help me quite a lot. Right, back. We have a king. He is now crowned. So obligatory pims, because apparently you've got to. It's a bank holiday weekend. So, tomatoes. We put some water in the bags. That's now sat for a couple of hours. I can feel there's a lot more weight in the bag now. I can see that the soil is a lot more moist. I like using the tomato bags purely because they've already got a lot of feed in them. Usually sees them from anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks without having to feed them. What I'm going to do with the pots is use the tomato bags, but I'm actually just going to be pouring it into pots. I'm curious to see which one's going to work better, if I'm honest. Usually like to make sure that the root network's quite deep. Obviously with the tomato bag, they're not going to be that deep. But anyway, beefsteak tomatoes. They're all doing quite well. Now there's a couple of things that you've got to do with your tomatoes before you can plant them. The first thing which you do is take off these bottom leaves. Where you can see all the furry goodness at the bottom, you see it's still a little bit hairy towards the top, but it's more furry at the bottom. All of this section here can actually shoot roots, which is good for the plant. So we're going to be planting her to around about this depth here. Thus, these bottom leaves can go at this point. The next thing is these little shoots here. You have the main stem, you then have branch, which comes off for the leaves and later on for the fruit. And then you have these little things here, referred to as suckers. Now these, you can actually take them off and plant them, and they grow into their own plant. But this would be a new main stem. Now we don't want that with these tomatoes. We want one nice solid stem going up. We'll be stringing that up, and then from there, we'll then be able to have all of the fruit come from it. Now these will grow constantly as this tomato plant grows. And all you do is pull them off to the side. If you miss them and they get a little bit bigger, pull them to one side till they click, and then pull them the other side, and they come straight off. As I say, the node at the bottom of that will actually shoot roots. So if you do put it in some soil, you will more often than not get a plant from it. So it'll be a clone from the original. I have known some people to do that at the end of the season and then keep the plant inside that they've snapped off, and then that's been their first tomato plant for the following year, which I think in some ways is quite nice, but it's not something I'm going to do. So this one is now all prepped. You can see going all the way up. I've already removed the suckers here, and then at the very top, if I can pick that up on the camera, that section just there where my thumb is, that's the main point of growth, and that's the only one that I want. Okay, now we've got 3 of these guys. Again, bottom leaves. The bottom leaves die off pretty quick. They're the original leaves of it. You can see my cat running around behind me. What are you doing, cat? These will die off eventually anyway. They're the primary leaves, the first ones that come up. We don't want them. And once this plant gets a bit bigger, we will be taking these off to allow air circulation through. The biggest pest that I have for tomatoes anyway is blight. Blight is an airborne fungus, basically. It's not in the soil, it's not in the water, it's just an airborne thing. My area seems to get it an awful lot. A couple of ways you can combat it I've seen are things like, for example, keeping moisture off the leaves, making sure that the roots don't become too soggy, etc, etc. But the primary way in which you can try to avoid it is allow free airflow and pick the disease sections. So as this plant grows, I'll be taking off the bottom section. I'll never have more than 2 or 3 sections of leaves towards the top, and this will allow the plant to get air nice and clear through it, which will allow it to keep clean and fresh and should not develop too much of the spores. They will still end up with some. Cat, do not touch that. My cat's trying to attack the bucket I've got the camera tripod on. And then the last one, again, picking these off. I've already been checking these over the last couple of weeks and taken off the little suckers. I left the other one on just to show you what they're like. Although I've got another variety of tomatoes up there where I haven't taken them off. But we'll get to them when we get to the buckets. Right, so the only tool I'm going to need is a trusty little trowel. So I'm going to try and arrange the camera so you can see now. Apologies for it going a little bit shaky. Right, so you can only see those two. We'll just have to trust me on the first one then. So we'll start off with the one at the far side. Now, Beefsteak tomatoes are my favourite ones. Oh yeah, but you can see how root bound that is. This is definitely ready to go in. Now what I personally do is I just squeeze it. I do not want to break any of the root network, but I do want it a bit looser. Some of the soil's going to fall out, that's okay. This soil should be somewhat spent by now anyway. So, and what I'm going to do is in the hole that I've made here, just going to lift it back, get the tomato in. Oh, I forgot the string, haven't I? What a silly Billy I am. Let me just grab some string. Where's my knife gone? There it is. Now, the other thing I do, and I don't know why I forgot this, but nonetheless, a bit of gardener's twine. And this is going to help support the plant. Now, you can use stakes and things like that and put it in, or you can use bamboo as well. They all work absolutely fine. The way I tend to do it, take the bottom, one side of your string, double knot a little loop in it, so there's a nice big bit just there. Now eventually this will all get bound up by the roots themselves and end up nice and secure in its pot there, in its spot, sorry. And the soil up nicely around it, and then this string will be supported on a bit of bamboo that I've got running the whole length of the ceiling, and it will keep it nice and upright. And then as the tomato plant grows, I'll simply wrap the tomato plant around the string, gives it some extra stability. It's obviously not affected by wind in here, but nonetheless it does help the plants, especially with such top heavy plants as beef tomatoes. The fruit really does weigh quite a bit. I think the largest one I've had was just shy of 1 kilogram, and there was about 7 or 8 on that particular vine. So it does need the extra support. And then for now I'm just going to put this down here because I've still yet to see to the rest of this bench anyway. Again, next one, make sure there's a nice deep hole in it. Get the yarn again. Oh, be straight back. Right, I'm back again. We've got a fish in our pond. Our neighbours kindly donated one, and it's a bit bigger than we thought it was going to be. And my little boy and my wife were just having a look at it at the moment, and she was just saying that she thinks it's got bigger since yesterday. Shouldn't surprise me because there's a lot of fish in their pond, and there's only him in our pond. So again, tie a nice loop, and all this does is it helps it gets tangled up in the weeds, in the roots. Just gives it a little bit more support on the grounding. So there's my loop. Loop goes at the bottom of the hole. Take the plant. Not all tomato plants will show a big black part of the stem. A lot of them do, but not all of them. But it's the, as I put it, the furry bit. That's the bit you want to look for. Again, you can see all I'm doing is just squeezing the roots just to give them a little bit more movement, make them a little bit looser. But if you hear snapping, stop. And then that goes in its hole. Compost over her. And then the third and final one, you won't be able to see, but I'll still do it on camera anyway. Yeah, beefsteak tomatoes are definitely one of my favourites. We're growing some Italian plum tomatoes as well. My wife, who's going to be growing those ones, I started them off at seed for her, but she's now got them in her greenhouse because we do like our bolognese sauce, etc. And then we've also got money makers growing in here as well, because you got to grow money makers. Money makers or gardener's delight. They're the main ones for cherries, and they're just a lovely little treat. You'll have to let us know in the comments, what tomatoes are you planting? Which ones work best for you? And I'll be very interested if you have any recommendations on a nice beefsteak tomato that doesn't tend to suffer from blight, because I'm damned if I can find one. And again, just covering up the soil. So These were planted from seed on the 24th of February. They've had a few months already, but now we're in the warmer climate, warmer weather. I'm expecting these to really start to ramp up now. Again, string's all here. Just try and keep it relatively neat so I don't trip over it mainly. Sorted. So, switch you around for it so you can see the 3 tomatoes down here. And once I've sorted all of that out, you can see that bamboo pole there. That's what all the string will go to. And then it's literally just a matter of wrapping the string round every 2 to 3 inches as it goes. Right, beef tomatoes done. Apologies for the camera angle. I was trying to sort something out to be able to do the next bit, and it'll be easier doing it this way for you. So, next set of tomatoes is the Tigerella. These are the ones I'm going to be putting in the pot. I have got some, I can't actually remember if they're Gardener's Delight or Moneymakers. Oh no, they're Gardener's Delight. But my Gardener's Delight all got eaten. So these ones are actually planted 18th of March. So they're not really coming along very far yet. I am going to put them into a larger pot today, but they won't be going into their big pots yet. There's just no point. And they're going to be outside. I'm probably going to try and put some tomato plants around my new office because there's loads of windows on there. And I quite like my tomato plants and I love the smell of them. It is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, yeah, so you can see with this one, I've not really done anything with it. You can see that the leaves on the underside, they're all browning off at the bottom. The plant doesn't use them anymore, so they can come off. I've just swept in here. And I'm chucking all of this all over the floor. That's fine. You can see just here we've got a little sucker appearing. That can come out. And actually, I'm going to take these leaves off as well at this point. Just going to give them a little twist and they come off. Plant will heal it nice and easily. And it's still got all this foliage on top. So for the Tigerellas, I have 4 of them, all planted around the same time. You can see with this one, this sucker is much more substantial. So this is one of the original leaves. Take that off. Now this would make a prime candidate for you to plant up. And again, twist one way and then the other, as I was saying. You can see it's got its growth nodule. Well, you probably can't see, actually, it's not focusing very well. It's got its growth nodule, and at the bottom here, that's where all the roots would sprout out. I'm not doing it this year. I did it last year and had mixed success. Again, I'll take that set off there. We've got another little sucker coming out there, but the rest of that's fine, so that can go in like that. Get that leaf off. I'm not really sure what happened to this one. It's nowhere near as tall as the other 3, but it seems to have more growth on it. So all of this section here I'm going to take off. So this will be the start of the leaves and take everything off from underneath. There's a couple of suckers on here as well. Make sure they're all off. And then the suckers themselves need to come out. But yeah, tomatoes are doing quite well so far. I know quite a few other people who are growing their tomatoes and theirs are a lot bigger, but the colour on mine, the density of it, I don't know, quite hopeful this year. I think we might get some good tomato plants. I think I'll take them all off from here down, leave this one on. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'm curious about the Tigerella because a lot of the leaves, they've gone like a purpley colour. It doesn't really pick it up very well on the camera. That angle it kind of does. It's quite a vibrant, well, violet, really. It looks orange there, but it's like a violet-y colour. Curious to see how this all turns out. I'm getting very, very excited. We've started picking our radishes now. My son, bless his heart, absolutely loves radishes. I think it's the crunch. So we've got some scarlet globes we've been picking, some French breakfast, and another one called Diana. But he's thoroughly enjoying that. Right, I'll figure out a way of setting the camera up now. So next thing, time to fill the tubs. Alright, hopefully this doesn't drop because that will be my camera smashed. Anyway, so we have, grab this tub. Well, I for one am quite glad that I didn't sweep up all of those little bits of compost and perlite because I think that just saved my camera. Right, let's find a better way of doing this, shall we? Oh God. Well, I would go and get one of those pots, but the timbers I just took off of this bed have just fallen, and I'm just going to call my wife and ask her to help. I'm stuck. Right then, so change plan. We're going to do it from a lower height. Now we've got all the spent compost from all those little pots. It's all dry as a bone, but most of it still has nutrition in it, but it has volume. Now the tomato feed that I'm going to be using, I've still got some left from one of the bags, like the one I've just put the beef tomatoes in. And I've also got some more that I picked up from Tesco's that are also grow bags. But I'm going to put all of this soil, split this between the 4 pots here, and then fill it all the way to the top, brim it up with the rest of the compost. So just divvy it up between the 4 pots. No exact science. Sorry, Riley. I've got my old cat in here with me. Keep me company. Push them in. And then fill out my stuff. So it's already marketed as being filled with all the food for several weeks, which is good. Oh, where's my knife gone? Oh, I keep moving this bloody thing. There it is. Yeah, I've noticed quite a few people that have been watching the channel are from faraway shores. There was a lady on there the other day from Canada. I'd be curious to know what sort of tomatoes you guys grow as well. I always quite like trying out at least one variety that I've not tried before, and I mean Tigerella technically would be the one for this year for me. I wouldn't mind getting another plant, just a single one, see how it turns out, see if it becomes a new favourite or not. So do let us know in the comments anything that you grow that you find to be high yielding. I was having a flick through as well with how much I've spent so far this year, and it's remarkably less than the year prior. But last year I was still setting up beds, etc. Oh, I'll put that up in a sec. Oh, that's not working out very well, is it? There's more going on there. On there than there is. Oh, dearie me. That's a cable tie. Why is there a cable tie in my tomato compost? You've got to be careful with compost bought from the shops and the garden centres, because you do get quite a bit like that, unfortunately. I must say, this compost smells very funky indeed. And it's all really compact actually, so you have to just do what you can, get in there. It doesn't need to be super fine, and the fact there's bits of wood in here isn't really going to cause too much detriment. But I'm already thinking this is quite a substandard compost, to be honest. This is not very good quality at all, so I might add some feed actually. That's what it's all about, isn't it? You start off with a plan and you just adjust it as you go to make it suit your purpose. There's quite a lot of plastic in this actually. I don't know if you can see that little blue bit. This is supposed to be tomato, right? Yeah. Peat free. Smells a lot like manure, but it's not. There's a lot of wood shavings in this. I don't mind the wood shavings, but I'd rather not have the cable ties and plastic. Yes, that's what I'm using. So, still got 3 more bags of this. I was going to use this for the melons as well. Not sure I will now. Go back to the old Jack's Magic. I love that stuff. I could do this in a quicker way, but I prefer to do it the right way, and I think that's the way you've got to be. At the end of the day, the plants we're planting here and we're growing, and hopefully we'll be harvesting successfully, we'll have put them in at the very beginning of the year, and by the end of summer we'll still be picking from them. So whilst sometimes the jobs can be a little bit tedious at this point, it's important to make sure you do it right. And I don't think I'll be buying this stuff again because it just doesn't feel very right to me. But it's what I've got to use, so I'm going to have to use it. I certainly wouldn't put any root vegetables in this stuff. Not a chance. Just break the last bits up and then we can get the tomatoes in. Now, when it comes to fertiliser, there's lots of different products you can use and they all have different reasons for use. For example, fish blood and bone is a fantastic thing to use when it comes to certain bits of veg and certain plants, but it's really bad if you use it on others. That's not a very good example really, is it? I suppose it is. What I intend on using for these, so I did have a backup just in case this didn't work very well. Some chicken manure pellets. Now this is ever so good when it comes to improving condition of soil, as it states. There's loads of different brands. I usually get it in a big old, was it a 5-gallon bucket? And that tends to last me the season, but for the life of me I can't find any this year. So just have to use what we get. I'll just put some plastic in it this time. Over there, ready to go to the bin. Don't need too much. This breaks up over the course of the coming weeks and months. Adds a lot of feed. If you want to develop root growth for a plant, just add bone meal. I intend on adding a little bit in here to try and help that along. But the one thing you don't want to do is overfeed your pots. If you overfeed it, you can actually encourage disease. So I'm not adding an awful lot into these. I add a little bit to assist the plants, but not an awful lot. And then it's just a matter of getting in there with your hands. You don't need to shuffle it in too deep, because for the first few weeks I'm going to be watering down on these. Towards the time when they start fruiting, I won't water the surface too much at all. The nice thing about having these trays is I can just fill them up, and then the plant will be able to draw the water up from the bottom, and that'll also help encourage more root growth. Right, so pots are ready. I'm going to get me a nice big hole in the middle. While I'm here, I'll do all of them. This is where our tomato is going to go and live. Again, we'll be doing the same thing with the strings. It'll be a little bit more secure in these because obviously the pots are an awful lot deeper. Oh, I found a bit I didn't break up in this one. Let's break that up. Whew. And would you believe it? I've lost the bloody knife again. How do I keep losing this thing? Oh, there it is. I'm cutting off more than I actually need, but I prefer to do that than not have enough. Tie it off. Nice big loop. String to one side, and down in the hole it goes. We got our tomato plant. Let's see how the roots are with these guys, shall we? I'm assuming they're going to be as good as what we had for the beef tomatoes. Yeah, perfect. Ready to go into their larger pots. So again, with these ones, we want to get that soil up nice and high on it. And you want to press these down in these pots, make sure they're firmed in nicely. I'm probably going to add some more soil to this eventually, but at the moment that'll be fine. Now, I did see, I don't know where this guy was from, But there's another YouTuber who plants these on his side. And I'm thinking with some of the ones that I'm doing outside, I might actually give that a go. See what that does to the plant. Down the hole. Another plant. Right. You can see, got all of that section there. It's going to get covered by the soil, and that will all develop its own root network from there, which will further aid the plant to be able to pull up as much water as it possibly can, which ultimately is what you want these guys to be doing. A lot of people I've seen have an issue with their tomatoes splitting. That's usually caused by the plant struggling for moisture. It sucks some of the moisture back in from the fruit, and then when you suddenly get an influx of water on that plant, i.e. you going and realising you haven't watered it in a while and watering it, the plant then swells the fruit, and that causes them to split. It's easy to combat it. It's regular watering. That's all it is. If you water them weekly, water them weekly. If you water them daily, water them daily. But don't skip your routine, because the plant will struggle and you will end up with splitting fruit. The fruit's still fine to eat. There's nothing wrong with it. You might have to pick it a little bit earlier though. Because once it's split, it's not protected from pests. Then firming her down. String's just here, so that's fine. And then one more to go. Well, the rain has now arrived. I think I've done this in the wrong order. I think what I should have done is go and get all the beans in the beds and get the beetroot planted. But I've done it this way round. That's fine. Now I've got something to do for tomorrow. String in the hole. The final plant, the one I'm most curious about and how it's going to grow. Roots are nice and thick, no issue there. Marvellous. Put this knife away so I remember where it is this time. Right, and now I just need to give them a good old water. Alright, so next is courgettes. Now, I've got these joyful little potato bags. I say little, they're bloody massive. I'm going to be using them, and the way I'm going to do these, I've got two varieties and I'm going to keep them separate. So we've got one which is the Sure Thing, and the other one I think is Black Beauty. Yeah, Black Beauty. So I'm going to keep them separate. Now, in them already, there's about 1.5 inches of spent compost from previous pots and flowers and things like that. That'll be fine in the base. The next thing I'm going to be putting in is some of the tomato rye. Now, because of the way this stuff was with the tomatoes, I'm also going to be using some other compost that I've picked up, but using this for a bit of bulk, I don't think that's going to cause me any issues. I'm going to have to break it apart because of how compact it is, and I want these relatively full. Strictly speaking, with courgettes, they do need quite a bit of room, so because of that, and I'm putting 2 of them in each of these, I do want to make sure there's plenty of feed in there. So having these sorts of composts are a good thing. They're not a root vegetable, so the little bits of plastic that I've been finding isn't going to cause me too much of an issue. But as I say, I shan't be buying this again. This was in a Tesco supermarket. Yeah, shocked. Well, there you go, just found just another big bit of plastic. It's not what you want in your compost. So, oh dearie me, a very sharp rose thorn as well. It's just gone into my thumb. Yeah, I don't think I'd class this as stuff that I'd recommend using to anybody else again. It wasn't too bad last year. It was still a little bit like this, but it's just constant plastic I'm finding in it at the moment. What I'll do is I'll plant the first one up with you, and the other one I'll do off camera. But yeah, quite a bit of compost needed for it. Now, courgettes, same as cucumbers, very, very thirsty plant, so you've got to make sure you keep on the watering for these. I'm kind of setting myself up a little bit here with regards to the colour of the material of these. In the summer, because they're black, there's going to be an awful lot of heat that gets stored. In there, unfortunately. This is the other one that I picked up, New Horizon. Not used any of this, I don't think. Well, certainly not in my recollection anyway, so I'd be curious to see how this stuff is. I'm not too worried about additional feed in this compost, although I do believe there is some. But I'll be adding feed to this in a moment anyway. Yeah, now that's a lot better. Breaking apart. Does appear to be some larger bits in there, but certainly no chunks so far. Yeah, that feels a lot better. This will make good topping for it. Now, in the spent compost that's in the bottom, there is also some worms in there as well. That'll help break down a lot of the stuff that's in these composts, and that'll do the courgettes a world of good. I shan't be giving any additional feed for the first few weeks, because the only feed I'm putting in here will be bone meal, because I want the roots to develop. So, mostly filled to the top. Right, so we're going to pop the sure things in this one, I think. Now, I did have 3 sure things, and I'm having a bit of issue with my pond at the minute. So I've rinsed off the mud from the roots of one of these plants, and I've planted it in the waterfall just to see if it comes out well. But you can see there, nice strong root network. Now, we don't really want to damage the roots, but I will just give them a little bit of a squash just to open them up a little bit. And then I'm just going to be putting one in one side and one in the other. You don't want to put them too deep. You want to keep them roughly the same level that they were in when they were in the modules. Again, lovely root network. Looking really good. So we should have some nice courgettes this year. Or zucchinis if you're in America, and I believe Canada call them that as well. But here in England, they're courgettes. Right, so there's that one done. We'll get the other one sorted, and then I think it's time to tackle the bean bed. Got some work ahead of me there. See you in a minute. So this bed, as you can see, is where I have all my rhubarb. And my plan at the beginning of the year was to have some beans climbing up these poles and some peas up the side. Now, I still like to do that, but I forgot how big the rhubarb's getting now. So I think we're going to have a harvest of it soon. It's unfortunately also killed off my asparagus. It's just, you can't even make out that that's asparagus, but it is. There's a couple of other ones that are now starting to come up, but no, they're not going to get very far. Yeah, so the plan will be get rid of all of the raspberry canes that I put here to try and deter the cats, turn over the soil a little bit, maybe even pick a bit of this rhubarb, and then once it's all cleared, I'm then going to put the borlotti beans on here and on here. I'm going to add a couple more poles to this one, and then the 2 bits of trellis I've put either side, I'm going to put the French climbing beans up then. A bit of weeding might be needed for certain, so I think while I get this all tidied up, I'm going to take the camera off, and then once I'm all ready to actually start planting, then I'll bring you back, because there's definitely some weeding to do. Right, I'll be right back. So it turns out a lot of my beans have failed, unfortunately. The slug damage, it's done a number on so many of them, but I've still got enough to be able to get a good little crop, so it's still okay. So I'll start with my old blotties. I think I could probably do them all on one TP, so I think I'll get rid of the second one and I'll use that space to put some beetroot in, because I've been struggling to figure out where to put that anyway. Right, so take the plant out. Didn't get a chance to come out and water the greenhouse yesterday, and everything's a wee bit dry for it, so everything will be getting a good water shortly. So all we're doing with the beans is we're just planting them down as deep as they were in their trays. So part the soil. Now we're going for the TP here, so each plant needs to be next to one of the poles, which is all good. Now for the module tray. These are quite excited about to see how they look inside. Again, I'm sure it would have looked a lot more dramatic if my slug problem hadn't been there. Alas, it is. So we make do with what we can. So yeah, these have had too much time in there, looking at the way this is. But that's good root growth, nice and deep. Take these guys out. Those two will be fine. I don't think that one will. So we'll call it quits with that one, I think. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what, I'll put him in anyway. I don't think we're going to get anything from him, but let's just pop him here. And yeah, all we're going to do is carry on all the way along. Pry the soil apart with the shovel. Try not to ditch all the compost onto the path. Now I'm keeping my Elysium in because it's been brilliant for all of insects, so I don't really want to lose it. This one I'm going to plant on the inside. Just keep it leaning this way slightly so it feels that it's got something to grab onto. That's a bit better. And again, see how the root network has just done ever so well. Definitely recommend these trays, just preferably without slugs. Again, it's only two that are going to have any sort of success in here, but that's fine. Still going to be enough for me to be able to do one of my platforms nice and well, so I'm still happy. Just get in there with my hands at this point. And then one last one, which was in a normal pot. I don't know, these were planted roughly the same time. When were these planted? These were planted on the 28th of the 3rd. Oh no, yeah, no, they were only a week apart. It does seem like there's more fuller growth from the wider pots. But given how many I'm able to grow using these wider pots in comparison to those trays, I think, oh, look at the roots on that. Fantastic. Definitely needs to go in the ground before now though. But looking at the root growth and the way these plants have grown, I think I will just keep using these seed start trays. They're ever so good. I like them a lot. Right, I've had similar success with the French beans. So you're not going to be able to see this very well on camera there, are you? I haven't really got a place to put you, but similar distancing with these. Again, lots of fails unfortunately, but these are just going to go along the side. Still got good root growth in the ones that have done well, and I'm just going to be planting these roughly every inch up this trellis. I'm a little bit concerned putting them up here because of the amount of shade the rhubarb gives. We are most certainly going to have issues with slugs, just have to see. If it doesn't work out, as I said, I've got loads of beetroot I need to plant, so it'll just have to go in there. Oh, that one might be okay. I'll get her in and see. And then the other tray again. Oh, I've got 3 on this one. Should be fine. Yeah, the root matting on this is just brilliant. And this will all need a nice good water. We have to pull out all that mint on the other side though, because that's just going to take all of the sunlight away from these guys, which I don't really want. May actually plant some more French beans up in these pods and then have them in a pot up near one of my sheds on the trellis. That'll probably be the best way of doing it. So this one's done. And last but not least, I've got these ones. And then this all needs a good watering in. I've got 4 successful ones in this one, which is good. Look at that. Marvellous. And that's the beans in. Right, I'm going to have a little think about what I'm going to do with the rest of this space, because I've now got this section clear, with the exception of the rhubarb coming over. I'll bring you back in a minute. Right, so I have no bit of space here, and this is where I'm going to pop some of my beets. So they've all been doing quite nicely in the plugs. I've got 2 varieties. What have I got? I've got Detroit and Renova. I don't know what they are, but we're going to give them a go. It's not a lot of space for them, so I'm not going to be planting all of them. Don't even know how many I'm going to plant yet. Beetroot do tend to get quite leafy. The leaves are good. You can eat them, use them in salads, stir fries, things like that. And obviously you've got the actual the vegetable itself, which is good. Compost is all lovely here. I've loosened it all up a bit, so it's all ready for them to go in. Yeah, so we'll just make a start on them. Some of the plugs towards the outside, as with everything in my garden at the minute, it did get slugified, but should still be absolutely fine. Now, I should be honest, I started the video a few days ago. We're now actually on the 11th. For those of you who watch my channel and have been for some time, my household seems to get bugs all the time, unfortunately, and we have a chest infection in the house now. My son and wife are struggling with it at the moment. I'm doing okay with it at the moment, but I did get a little bit rough, so I had to sort of call it quits, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, we're back out getting it all sorted. We're only round the corner from summer. I've even noticed some of my peas, I've got nice full looking pods on them that I might actually even pick in the next day or so. We've had some fails already this year, which is a shame. Some through my own fault, admittedly, and others I'm not really sure why. This morning, for example, I've come out with the intention of trying to get the melons in as well, and they're just missing. The plug tray's still there, but there's nothing in the hole where last night there was a melon. Even the soil's gone. I'm not really sure what's happened there, but oh well, it is what it is. Alright, looking at this, I think I can put most of this tray in here. So spacing wise, I'm not doing them too far apart, but row wise I'm giving a few inches in between each row. just gives them room to grow. Because the slugs are an issue in this bed, they're an issue everywhere, but they are an issue in this bed because of the shade the rhubarb gives. I don't want them all too close together because it's just going to give extra places for all the slugs to sit, which is less than ideal. So beetroot's leafy green really, so you don't want too many hiding spots for them. But yeah, so these are the Detroits. You can see you don't have to be too careful with beetroot. I find that they are quite a hardy little plant. The plugs have all come out really nicely. You can see even the roots have got their red colour. Now there are quite a few different types of beet that you can get. We had some white ones last year. I can't remember for the life of me what they were called. Blackbirds love singing today. If I'm honest, I quite like the colour. The vibrant reddy purple I think is a really attractive thing to have with your beetroot. So gone back to them again this year. Get these guys in, and then once I've done this, there's only one more job that I need to get done today, and that is to put my corn in. It's starting to struggle a little bit, so I need to get it in the ground. The bed where I put all the kale, unfortunately that's all gone. It kind of got decimated by slugs and also cats digging it up, which is a shame. I have to do something with that bed to stop it from happening again, but at this point I haven't got a clue what I'm going to do yet. It's less than ideal considering I'm about to start planting stuff, but it'll be fine. Get these last few in, do one more row. And we should have some tasty beetroot in a few weeks. The plugs have all got several seeds in, although a couple of these I've only had a few germinate, which is a shame, but you don't want to do them too thick, otherwise you'll only end up with small beets. And I quite like roasting the beetroot in the oven for a roast dinner. It's low carb and it's full of good stuff for you. So still have a few roast potatoes, but predominantly the beets if I can. Right, and that's in, so I need to come back here in a minute and give everything a water, but I don't need to show you how I water things. Watering can, you tip it over, so I'll bring you back in a few minutes when we're ready to plant the corn over in the other bed. Last but not least, time to do the corn. So, in this bed, we've got a couple of things already. Got my rosemary, got my thyme, curry plant that I think's died now, and there were some crowns of asparagus planted at the back. The problem I've got is for some reason there's 3 cats that keep coming to my garden, plus one of my own, that just dig holes in the back. They haven't been going to the toilet, they've just been digging the holes. So I've got to be careful of that. This, I'm going to take it out, what's left of all the kale I planted. As you can see, the pigeons and the slugs have gone to town with it, and because the cats were digging at the back, they're all gone as well, which is a shame, but it is what it is. So, my corn, mixed success to say the least. The bottom is completely covered in roots, and actually I've just found another one of those slugs. Get off, absolute pain. So let's take this out of here. You can see all the roots have come through quite nicely. So now we have to separate them all, which is easier said than done. But that'll be the first job. And then once we've separated them all, we can look at spacing. Now, corn is a wind pollinated plant. It needs to be set in bunches to be able to pollinate itself properly. Now there are ways around it. One of the things that you can do, which I will be showing you how to do later on in the year, is you can pollinate it yourself. Certainly something I'd recommend regardless of how many you've got. If you do not have full pollination, then what you tend to have is you have a nice big ear of corn or a cob, another tiger slug,
You have a nice big cob of corn. When you open it up, you find that some of the kernels are nice and yellow and some of them are just missing. I know some people that believe that that's actually an insect's got in and eaten them. That's not the case. Each silk that you get off of the cobs themselves, once they start forming, feeds directly to a kernel, to a seed. God, this is really matted, really matted. This is what I mean. I should have got through to this earlier on. I shouldn't have waited so long to do this. Yeah, so each of the silks goes through to one of the kernels themselves, and that's how it's pollinated. If you don't have a kernel pollinated, then what ends up happening is you get that effect where it looks like something's been eating it. It's not been eating it at all. You can see all the cardboard from these loo rolls is all falling apart on me. It's another sign to me that I've waited too long to do this. Corn can't handle the frost, so you've got to make sure you pass your last frost date. As soon as you pass your last frost date and the temperatures aren't dropping below 2 degrees at night, I personally find if it's sheltered like it is in this spot, it's absolutely fine to start planting. So we have a nice amount of plants. I get rid of this bean as well because that's been chewed through and rotten at the bottom. It's a shame, but it is what it is. Hopefully we'll have more success with these guys. So let's get spacing them out then. Now ideally, what I'd like is to have 3 rows of 3. We'll see whether that's actually possible with the amount that I've got. I'll try and do this without standing in front of the camera. The larger ones probably at the back, so they can be getting their sunlight straight away. Smaller ones at the front. Another 3 here. 2, 3. And then these guys up in front. So that's the spacing I'm going to go for. It doesn't have to be too accurate. And then securing them down in nice and deep. And with corn, you don't have to support them. Oh, it's not a good position to be leaning over in. You don't have to support corn at all. I know some people do. If it's particularly windy, I have in the past just put some bamboo around the outside and then done a string line across them just to give them a little bit in extra high winds. In here, I don't foresee that being any sort of an issue at all. In. These all in nice and deep. Oh, dearie me. Tell you what, this is not a good way of planting them if you've got a bad back. Diddy one, that's probably not going to last, but worst case scenario, I'm in the same boat as I would be if I just threw it away. So I might as well put her in. Now in this bed we've also got the blackberries, but they're trellising off to the left, so they shouldn't be adding any shade. So the corn should be free to grow. There's the ones at the back. Again, once these are all in, give them a good old drink. Last year my corn failed miserably and I put a lot of work into it, which it's never a nice feeling. But I think my problem last year was I was trying to go for the way they used to do it in the old days in America, the Native Americans. They'd companion plant corn with things like squash, because they both benefited each other, and I may have planted too much of both and everything competed too much and failed. That's the corn in. I'll give it all a drink and yeah, monitor it closely to make sure it's not attacked by slugs. So that's everything I need to do for today. We've still got some glorious sunshine, so I'm still going to do a wee bit of watering. The next things I need to do is the melons. But I'll be honest, this sun is burning the back of my neck a treat. So I think once I've given everything a water, I'm going to go sit down, have a cup of tea and edit this video. I'll try and get all of the other bits done the next day or so and upload another video in a week. A bit of bad news today, unfortunately. My office is supposed to be arriving today, the 11th. I've just spoken to the company and they said, no, we've just dispatched it to a delivery company. They'll be in contact within the next 7 to 10 days. It's a bit gutted, if I'm honest. I was looking forward to next week being able to work from my own space. I've got all my electrical board and everything done and dusted as well, which I need to do a video on for that as well. But it is what it is. We're on the verge of summer. Everything's growing really nicely now. We're going to start being able to harvest some of this crop very soon. The radishes are already coming in thick and fast at the moment. It's a good time. It's a very good time. Well, thank you ever so much for joining us today at our garden. Really do appreciate it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and by all means leave a comment if there's anything you found useful or anything you think I should be doing differently. I don't know what I'm doing. I make it up as I go along. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye bye.